Hi everyone, my name is James Kelemen, and I am a senior visual studies major with minors in consumer psychology and cognitive science. However, today, in the spirit of our multidisciplinary program, I would really like to talk about research outside my main area of study, which I conducted in a BFS course during my junior fall called Visualizing Peopling the Past. This course was co-taught by Clark Erickson of the Anthropology Department and Norm Bodler of the Computer Science Department. Our overarching goal for the semester was to contribute to the development of a historically accurate virtual recreation of the society and landscape of the pre-Columbian Baras region of Bolivia. Through this case study, we set out to learn more about the digital humanities and their potential to change how individuals today learn about the past, while gaining three-dimensional modeling experience. Before I move forward with my individual research, I would like to thank Professor Erickson and Professor Bodler for their guidance throughout the semester, as well as give credit to Julia Bell, my research partner and fellow college senior. The focus of my research was to learn more about hammocks and their integral role in the pre-Columbian Amazon, with the eventual goal of creating hammocks modeled from weaving patterns and dyes I studied at the Penn Museum and populating these hammocks with virtual people. In this talk, I will first explain why I chose to focus on the hammock, among other cultural artifacts, then review my research on the history of the hammock in the pre-Columbian Amazon, and finally go over my three-dimensional modeling process. At the end of the talk, I will show my model, the end result of my project. I chose to model hammocks because it allowed me to demonstrate through three primary factors what I had learned throughout this course about making a conscious, well-informed effort to limit biases when representing populations of human beings. First, the well-documented variation in textile patterns between different indigenous groups of the pre-Columbian Amazon allows one to avoid lumping the groups together as a singular foreign other. In this sense, one can also steer clear of problematic shorthand for different groups, which has been historically common in archaeological study, like ancient peoples or natives. Second, showing people at rest is a contrast to many current museum reconstructions, from dioramas to drawings and paintings, that only depict action, such as hunting, cooking, nursing children, or using tools. In this way, we avoid attaching gender biases to our model, since sleeping is not a gendered activity. Third, there is a misconception that weaving is women's work, but since both men and women contributed to the production of hammocks in the pre-Columbian Amazon, a model of hammock creation can accurately represent genders. And now just a little bit about the history and usage of hammocks in the pre-Columbian Amazon. So, as primary source documentation from pre-Columbian Central and South America is limited, what we know about their hammocks is largely influenced by what the first non-native peoples in the area observed and documented. The first written account of hammocks in history seems to come from Chanca, a Spanish physician, in his letter to Columbus, in which he describes the cotton hamaca used by the Carib people of Santo Domingo to sleep in at night and to rest in during the day. However, anthropologists, using material artifacts as evidence rather than written documents, have traced the origins of the hammock to long before the arrival of Europeans. The pre-Columbian Amazonian peoples have been credited by researchers as being the first to have used a hammock, before the introduction of cotton spinning and loom-based weaving to the area. The practice of using a hammock began among the fishing peoples of the region, such as the Arawak, who created large nets known as fish weaves, made with rough tree and grass fibers to catch fish. They began tying fish weaves between trees as a way to dry them out. The hammock-like shape which was created soon served another purpose, allowing the men to rest in the shade during day labor. The hammock eventually became the primary bed style of people living in Amazonia over time because it offered benefits which were catered perfectly to the environmental conditions of the region. The elevation which hammocks provide offers protection from insects and disease-carrying rodents and venomous snakes, which are otherwise free to enter the open-air homes. The elevation also removes one from the unsanitary water and dirt of the forest floor in camps, and the weave creates a comfortable, breathable place to rest amid the humid rainforest climate. Aside from providing a place to sleep at night, hammocks in Amazonian households served other important functions. a cool place to rest or a break from during the workday, and a place to sit when groups of family members or guests gathered in the evenings. When guests entered the household for the first time, the host would offer them the best hammock in terms of comfort and craftsmanship. The two predominant styles of hammock weave that I learned about in this class throughout the Amazon are the all-warp hammock, which is shown here, and synonymous with the net-like twined hammocks described above, and the weft and warp hammocks, shown here, which were usually made on the loom from cotton or a combination of cotton and twine. The process of weaving an all-warp hammock without a loom is identical to the process which fishing peoples use to make fish weaves, as the objects share a common history. First, men or women would strip the fibers from the royal palm or other local tree or grass. Single-ply cordage is made by rolling and twisting these raw fibers together across the knee. Then, two individual plies are combined, usually with a reverse twisting action, into a larger and stronger rope. The final stage is creating the net or hammock by interlocking the multi-ply ropes together. Two stabilizing poles, made of thin but sturdy pieces of wood, are commonly used in the final stage to support the weave as it is being constructed, as it becomes heavier and more difficult to maneuver by hand when it takes shape. Coloring for hammocks tended towards the more neutral spectrum and were produced by plants found in the surrounding environment. Although other colors were occasionally used, brown or black dyes collected from tree bark were most common for hammock dyeing. When we set out to construct our models, Julia and I started by taking photos of the hammocks in the Penn Museum Amazon collection after a visit guided by Ann Tabali. Then we began drawing textile patterns using Adobe Illustrator. I have selected an example to demonstrate this initial stage of the process, and you can see one of my creations juxtaposed with a textile from the archives. Although these initial attempts were visually appealing, we realized that it would be more efficient and accurate to make texture maps using Photoshop that could be input directly into Maya, the three-dimensional modeling software we learned for this project. The texture maps which we found online, like this one, were not accurate to the all-warp or weft and warp weaves we observed at the museum. They appeared too digital and did not capture the handcrafted nature of the hammocks. Therefore, we decided to make our own texture maps using the images we took. With the help of TAs Josh Nadell and Miles Aliofe, we were able to create two weft and warp textures, one with a more modern fringe, seen here, and an all-warp texture. To create the shape of the hammock, we observed what hammocks look like at rest and when someone is lying in them. We created a flat plane in Maya, folded up the corners to replicate the corded ends of the hammock, and cinched the plane by extruding surfaces and edges. We went through multiple iterations of this process as we learned to use the software in order to make the hammock look more realistic and accurate. Finally, we smoothed the surface and decreased the polygon count in Maya so that the shape would appear more organic, and then we applied the textures we made. Please enjoy our final models and note that only the hammocks, not the women depicted lying in them, are our original creations. Thank you.